Every heart is a domino. The momentum starts with yours. Now, those are words said by Trudi Jane. This is Now Tell Us, and I welcome you to this episode of Now Tell Us. And I believe that we are going to have a great time here. At Now Tell Us, we always have guests come and tell us stories, inspire us, educate us on a subject, and always we are having a great time because of our guest and because of you, our listeners, or our viewers. So if you're here with us, tell us where you're watching or listening to us from. If you have a question, please ask as we are going on. And if you have any comment about the podcast, we thank you in advance. So now we are going to meet our guest today, who is a great guest, a wonderful guest, Trudi Jane. She's going to be here shortly. And I would ask you to please join me to go and meet her for this episode of today. Here we go. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Anthony. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Good, wonderful. Good to have you at Now Tell Us.
Thank you. How did Now Tell Us start?
Oh, that's a good question. Now we've just started on this episode, and you ask how it started. Now I'll go back to a few years back, about 3 years or so, when I first published my book known as Be Good for Good. And I wanted to have people, I wanted to have people get to know about it. So I was looking for podcasts. And then I discovered that people out there are having a hard time finding a place to be interviewed. So I started a podcast known as Book Talk. And I started interviewing people who have written books and published them. And it went on for about a year, every week interviewing about 2 3 people. And then after that time, people were interested to come on my podcast, but they had not written books. So they asked me, hey Anthony, I would like to come and speak about something, but you're only talking about books. And this is when Now Tell Us started. Now Tell Us is welcome to anybody who has anything to say. If you have books, we love books. If you have any writings not published, we love to hear what you do. If you have a subject on personal development, that's our passion. So that's how it started, and this is where we are.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love
and we are glad that you're here today with us.
look, Mary's there. Hi, Mary. Love you too. Um, I think it's really important that we have these platforms to share our stories because one of the things that I've really found along the way is how similar stories are, but how far apart they seem,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And there's a lot of vulnerability in sharing your story.
Yeah.
But by doing so, you allow others to share, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and people understanding that they, as alone as they may feel within their story, when they share with others and recognize themselves in others, it develops a connection that allows them that capacity to understand more of their story through the eyes of another. And that's really heading us down the pathways to that deeper level of ourselves that starts us on a healing process.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
really valuable,
it's
you
good.
know.
It's wonderful. And
Mm.
people have been sharing stories from time immemorial. They talk, and now when this present day is here with us, and technology has improved, then wonders are happening all over the world.
Well, it's much easier than walking across the desert, don't you think?
Sure, sure. It's better than that. For example, we have Mary, whom you just greeted. She is all the way from the USA. And where are you, Trudy? For the person who's watching or listening to us.
Well, I'm in Tasmania, Australia.
Wow, that's beautiful. And for
So
your information, I'm in Athens, Greece.
yeah, so I mean, there we are, we're here and here and here, and we can all connect. And I mean, all of our stories being shared hundreds and hundreds of years ago, we
Mhm.
wouldn't have been able to share them like this.
Yeah, sure. And Mary Brown is wishing people happy Thanksgiving. We wish she could stay, but she's back to work. Thank you, Mary, for being with us here. We appreciate you, and we wish you all the best in everything. Now, so here we are sharing stories. I want us to come or go back to where we first came into contact with you. And
Yeah, so that was on Facebook.
yeah.
I saw that you were giving away a book to
Hmm.
share and send around the world. And I'd recently been involved in doing that with someone else. Hi, Alicia. And I'd recently been involved with doing that with someone else, with Sandy from the Courage Circle.
Okay.
Yeah, so I saw your post and I jumped on and I said, yeah, sure, Anthony, I'd love to read your book. And I read your book and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the depth of the stories in there. For me, it was interesting to listen to a different childhood in a different country,
Hmm.
because you grew up in Africa, yes,
Hmm.
and that's entirely different to my upbringing in Australia. And from your book, I had a sense that in your childhood you were quite connected in community,
Hmm.
which I think is an extremely important thing. My childhood was the opposite. There was no sense of community, there
Hmm.
was no stability. And so I found moving into adulthood that caused great difficulty in my life because I was so disconnected from myself and the world around me. So it was fascinating to read your story and recognize that, this goodness that we speak of, this essence that we all carry within us, is still there regardless of how we've grown up. It's something that is intrinsic to all of us.
Yeah, sure. And this is where we come to say that every heart is a domino, and the momentum starts with yours. Now,
It
this
does.
is your quote. Uh, Tell us about it. Tell us why you're so connected to it and how it came to be.
Yeah. So for me, the opening of a heart, one can walk through life and perhaps feel like they, have an open heart and they have a level of empathy and care about others, but they can still not have completely opened their heart.
Mm-hmm.
When your heart completely opens and you see everything as an element of yourself, so you can see yourself within everything around you, and you have that unique experience of oneness with the world,
Mm-hmm.
it changes your whole experience of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no going back after that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if that was an experience that everyone could find within themselves and open their heart to the world, we would be looking at a very different world. And it's something that people need to find within themselves. And so that's why I say, essentially by finding that within ourselves, we help others to do so. So we start with our own heart, and that provides the domino effect. So That could be likened to the butterfly effect, you know. Every
Mm.
time you do something within your own world, it makes it easier for others to do it in theirs.
Oh, yeah, and if the world is going to change, the change starts with us. We we,
Absolutely.
we got to believe that what we want to see out there in the world is going to be determined by what is within us, and us letting it out there in the world is going to impact another person and another one and another one, and the domino keeps on moving, and we are going to be surprised at what we are going to achieve in the final end.
Absolutely, because that domino effect um, has an influence over the collective unconscious and consciousness of the world. So
Mm.
even though we might not immediately see the effects, they're definitely happening. I mean, I
Yeah.
know around me, I see a greater number of people growing their own personal awareness and accepting greater responsibility for
Mm-hmm.
their role in their lives and not seeking to just blame other people's actions for where they are in life. They're, looking at life and going, okay, so I'm here based on my past choices, and perhaps they weren't great choices because that's all I knew, but now I know better, so I can go forward making better choices.
Oh, yeah, sure. We know
Mm.
better, we make better choices, take better
Mm.
actions, and that's going to create a better society and a better world. Now,
Mm.
when I first came into contact with you after what we've just explained, I discovered that you have a page that is known as Trudi Jane Poetry, Prose and Ponderings, that
Mm.
has a big number of following. And I already see one of your readers here who is known as Christina Bering Lassen. I hope I got that right. Says, thank you very much. Thank you so much for your writings. I feel the connection between all our souls in the vulnerability and love you express in your posts. You are so inspiring. I'm truly grateful. Much love.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Christina.
Yeah. Tell us how it all started with this great work that you're doing.
Yeah, so I went through, uh, as I said, I had a very disconnected childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was moved with, from one caregiver to another. And unfortunately, within my childhood, every caregiver I had was abusive on some level, whether it be emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. That was my life experience up until I was 13 when I left home. Well, when I say I left home, yeah, I ran away and didn't go back. So that was, my way of leaving that situation. And without even realizing it at the time, I guess I was discovering how much we can actually create in the world ourselves because, I ran away and I gave myself a fake name and an age, different age, and, got a job and sort of started making my own way in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is a great thing. But unfortunately, I also had a lot of baggage from that initial 13 years, and it was going to take me a very long time to move past that
Mm-hmm.
because one thing I learned was as much as you can put things away, and I can remember I used to, when anything bad happened, I'd sort of just put it away and say, oh, it didn't matter and it would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes the problem with saying it doesn't matter is actually what we're saying is that we don't matter, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably more of the message that I was giving myself and cementing in there with my earlier conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I, went ahead and lived life as best as I knew how. And I was married for 27 years and I already had a daughter from a previous relationship and had four beautiful daughters in my marriage. And at the time in that marriage, we were very much the right people for each other, um, even if we didn't end up the right people for each other.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2018, I came to a point in my life where um, I was leaving my marriage. Everything just sort of cycled and happened all at once. I was retired from my job early after 6 years of being unwell due to workplace trauma. I received a cancer diagnosis,
Mm.
and my marriage of 27 years ended.
Oh.
So 2018 was an extraordinary year, and 2019 and since then continued to build in, a lot of inner reflection, um, amazing experiences, and a lot of painful shedding of things that weren't really me.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a profound experience in 2018. By early 2019, I knew that my purpose or my calling was to share with the world.
Mm.
Um, and for me, that came through writing. And so I started writing and created the page, and that was in early 2019. And I just connected with people, you
Mm.
know, and I have spoken to people through my page every day since about, whether it's briefly or a little bit longer term, about their stories and how they've moved through them, and I've helped them and they've helped me. And it's just that sense of community and connection
Mm.
that's
Wow.
built.
Wow, that's beautiful. As we speak, your page now has 273,000 followers.
Yeah,
That's beautiful. And that
yeah,
means something. That speaks something.
that's grace.
I'm curious, and maybe people who are not familiar with what it is that you write, I'm curious, what is it that people come to read there? What has inspired them to just come follow you? And if, maybe you can give us an example of what it is that you write. What's your favorite writing that you can share with us?
I write.
Or just say, just speak about
I
it if it's not
Yeah.
close
Well,
by you.
I write whatever comes to my mind, and I don't pretend that all of that comes from me. I know that it comes from places that, are much deeper than that. And sometimes, Anthony, I'll be out walking, and I'll stop, pause for a second, and it's like I just receive a rush of information and I write something or I write a poem. And there's been times when I've looked at it and I've thought, well, I've got no idea what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to sit and reflect with it, and then, it unpacks itself for me and I understand what it means. And then I share that. I am open to all my experiences of the last 4 years. It
Mm-hmm.
took me a long time to um, recognize and accept those experiences, because you have to think, before this happened, I really didn't have any belief or faith one way or the other about anything of much in the world.
Mm-hmm.
um, but to my credit, I never discounted anything in the world. I was open to possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a strength that everyone could go back to, is opening themselves up to possibilities, for themselves, and the world. And I think that when we put things out like that, that come from the soul, beyond the soul, from the universe, from God, from love, whatever you would like to label, whatever your belief is, label it however you like. I can tell you the belief doesn't care what you call it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you ascribe to that work, those that need to hear you will find you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they found you, and we are very glad that you're making a big impact in the world. As Anna Maria says here, that you write from the heart, and that touches so many of us. Thank you.
Yeah, look, there's Anna Maria and everyone on my page are what carry me as well. You know, the profound impact that the trust that they've placed in me with their stories and the love that they've shown me
Mhm.
through my journey over the last 4 years. And, you know, that in a dialogue we all still have with each other in our, you know, fear of laying ourselves out, you know, we don't just dive through that in one go. It's like a spiral. You
Mhm.
know, it gets easier to do, but we need to keep doing it to, you know, nothing's linear, everything's a spiral.
Yeah.
And I do strongly believe that what we're seeing across the planet at the moment in many, many areas is a huge awakening of self awareness and consciousness. And I think that there is, you know, a lot of people having self realization and moving into higher thoughts about themselves, each other, and the world. You know, I think that we essentially are tapping into that deeper goodness and becoming more loving and more aware of what we can offer to others in the world, and know that, you know, this circle of giving and receiving is complete.
That's good. So it's a cycle. I mean,
Mm.
from one person to the other, as we say, the domino. This is happening, and it keeps. And we've got a responsibility to be the ones who are taking action. And this is a reminder to each and everyone who's listening or watching. Now, let me go back a bit. Um, you talked about being diagnosed with cancer.
Yes.
What's your current position?
So I have CML.
Mm,
So that's a form of leukemia. Um, and it actually is due to a change in your um, chromosomes, your DNA. So
yeah.
they don't actually essentially know what causes that, um, but it happens. It's a somewhat rarer form of leukemia where um, it is quite impactful because there is actually at this point in time no cure for
Mm,
CML, but there is ongoing treatment for it.
okay.
um, which is a positive thing, because if you went back 25 years ago, you didn't survive CML.
Mm,
So now we have ongoing treatment for it, and the targeted therapy helps, but it also does, for many of us, come with side effects.
mm,
So it's a chronic, what I would term quite a chronic condition, worse for some than others. Um, I've been fortunate for much of my journey. The first few months was quite awful in 2018. I was diagnosed in July, and I would have to say that it was about 6 weeks later when I was first on medication, and it was a period of time where I was very weak. It was the sickest that I had been. Um, and that was actually a moment when I experienced grace for the first time.
mm,
Um, and that was a profound experience for me, that from that moment forward, everything in my life changed, including my health. I became quite well and stable on medication very quickly.
mm-hmm.
So I've been on my medication for CML for 5 years now.
Okay.
Earlier this year, because I'd been stable for so long, we did what we call a trial of going treatment free.
Mm-hmm.
So I commenced that in April. Um, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to maintain
Mm,
treatment free period. And so, I mean, this year as well has been quite an upheaval, because I had the, you know, went treatment free in April, and I had, I guess I didn't have an expectation. Like, I think there's about a 40% chance that you may be able to maintain treatment free. So I fell out of treatment free. My daughter passed away very suddenly in August.
Oh, sorry for
And
that.
thank you. And that was around the same time, and I hadn't said anything to anyone yet, but I was pretty sure by the way that I was feeling that I was falling out of the treatment free, and the blood test results were showing that. So yeah, it was. And again, that's a pretty hard thing to face as well. So I had to go through the transition of going back onto medication, which was at the beginning of September. And I would have to say that, yeah, so that's been, 2 months, and I'm actually feeling quite a lot better now.
Mm,
And so we expect that I will remain on treatment again for, that's one of my daughters, Jessica. I love you. Um, Samantha was actually her identical twin sister, and she's just so close to our hearts every day. Um, the thing is, when someone that you love so deeply passes away, and you have extreme faith, and you know that they're okay because you believe that there's more than here and now, just
mm,
doesn't make ache in your heart go away. That's still with you all the time, and
mm-hmm,
that's where the deepest belief in love really has to carry you through. Yeah, so I'm feeling I'm feeling much better in myself. I've recently just been able to stop the pain relief because I do get a lot of bone pain associated with both when the leukemia is active, and unfortunately also the medication I take for treatment causes a lot of bone pain. So I have to manage that every day.
mm,
And I have to manage my own expectations of myself every day because I always think, oh, Trudi, you've got to do more. There's so much more you can be doing. And then I'm just like, oh God, I'm tired. I have to rest too. So,
mm.
we learn to manage everything.
And we wish you all the best. We wish that you get well. We pray. It's our prayer that you continue to live life as you're living to the fullest. As
Yeah,
you,
absolutely.
yeah, and as you continue to, and through it all, you've been sharing your writings and what you've been going through and inspiring the people. Yeah,
Yeah, every day for,
every
4 years.
day, every day,
Yeah.
every day.
Um,
That's
and
grace. Someone said that's grace. Mishka said that's
yeah,
grace.
the funny thing is how everything arrives just as you need it. On the days that I found the hardest are the days that you suddenly receive a message from someone saying how much you've helped them.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And those are sort of messages that we give to each other's days without even realizing it.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. As we said in the beginning, sometimes you are vulnerable, and we may be wondering why am I putting myself on the line, but then it's someone out there who's waiting on you to share your story so that it may be an inspiration to them, that they may use it to see life in a different perspective and maybe take a different direction from the way that they are going if it's the wrong one.
Yeah.
So our sharing is important.
Yeah, I think was it Shakespeare that said life is a stage and all the players are actors.
Mm-hmm.
Now we all like to and we do all like to be the main actor
Yeah.
on our stage, but we also need to maintain that little bit of I guess I would call it humble, and recognize that not only are we the main actor in our story, but we also have a role in other people's stories. And that means that we could have a supporting role, we could have a small piece of time as a um, just a small piece of time in their life to make a difference.
Mm.
It's important to recognize that.
Yeah, yeah, it's very important. Wow, wow. Oh, thank you. Thank you. We thank you for sharing your stories, your poetry. Now, at this up to this point, we haven't got a chance to read your poetry, to hear it from you also. Maybe you're
Oh,
not. Oh,
I
are
can
you?
read one if you
Yes,
like.
let's read for us, please.
All right, I'll find a quick one.
Okay.
It's
That would be good. We'll go remembering the poetry that you read for us.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll do Shoes of Ruby Red. Um, so a lot of people quite like Shoes of Ruby Red, so we'll read that one.
Okay.
Alone in the dark was a deep place to be, full of nightmares, evil, and then there was me, someone I didn't even really know. How does that happen? Where do we go? I thought I could see it all in front of me, a path that was laid out so clearly. But I looked down one day onto Shoes of Ruby Red and started listening to the voices whispering in my head. It was time to click my heels and start the path home, even if it meant leaving all I had known. This journey is not for the faint of heart. Ascension will build you and then tear you apart, all to allow you to rise higher still. For how else would you see beyond the next hill? It is a yellow brick road littered with things. Don't get stuck running around in rings, for you will meet them all along the way, the brainless, the heartless, and those filled with fear. Take care with those that you choose to let near. You'll need to clear out the junk in your mind, illusion, delusion, amongst the things that you may find. A lifetime of secrets you have held in place. Each one of them you will most certainly face. Learn how to battle the witch that lives within. Balance those demons beneath your skin. Each new step brings a lesson or three. Search within so that you can see. No Wizard of Oz is higher than you. The truth is, you already know what to do. It's all inside, and love is the key. This is something I hope you will see.
Wow. Wow. That's great. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
You're not only a good writer, but you're a very good reciter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A little bit of practice. Yeah.
Two questions as we come to this point. Are these poems published in a
Not
book?
yet.
In a book?
Not yet.
They should
Not
be. They should
yet.
be as
Thank you,
early as
Andrew.
yesterday.
Yeah.
And when
Yep.
you publish them, the other question, who is going to read them if not you?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So yeah, go ahead.
so publishing the first book was definitely on the cards for this year. I had a date in place, and my daughter passed away, and I decided to take some time out. Of course, I was ill as well. So I've delayed the first book. I'm hoping to publish it, self publish, on the 27th of March next year, which would have been my daughter's 27th birthday. So I think that that's quite a nice tribute to her. And yeah, her and her sister were very supportive of my new direction in life and writing. So I just think that'll be, yeah, sometimes things change for reasons we can't see, and that date seems to work for me.
Yeah. Uh, some of the things we may never understand, but
Yeah.
when we look back, we are going to see that they served us in a way, in one way or the other. Sorry for the loss to you and to
I
Jessica.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, yeah, there's always little things that happen. And if we're open, if all of our senses are open to the world around us, we'll see little things along the way that show us how things are going to be okay.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Wow. So we love your poetry. Thank you very much.
Thank
And,
you for having me on your
and
show. I have really
uh,
enjoyed it.
so many people love it. Laurie says you are very talented. Thank you for your writings. And many
Thank
other
you.
people have commented. And on top of that, thank you very much for coming onto my show.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me read your book. It was great.
Oh, I am glad that you enjoyed it.
Mm,
Yes, and thank you for sharing it on your page. I really appreciate that.
thank you.
And I look forward to seeing your book published when
Yes, thank you.
that time comes. Yeah, so we thank you, and we also thank each and every person who's been with us here on this episode. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate, and comments keep flowing in. We have Basharath who says, "You are truly within the soul to flourish the best within the humanity." Thank you,
That's
Basharath,
beautiful.
for sharing. And yeah, keep those comments coming. And for those people who are not on that page, how do they find it? Because I know many people, some people could be from my side and they have not seen your page.
Oh, absolutely. They can just do a search for me on Facebook. You can Google search Trudi Jane Poetry, and it's going to come up with my Facebook page at the top and my website and all of those sorts of things. So, but on Facebook, it's Trudi Jane Poetry, Prose and Ponderings.
Yeah, and I have shared the link to it. So if you can hop on there, you can go and enjoy the poetry as we await the books to come.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah. So that's about it for today. Before we go, leave us with a parting shot. What could you tell the people never to forget in their own life? Something short.
Love.
Love.
That's what we are.
We are love, and that's enough.
We are.
We are love.
You tap back into the truth of love and you won't ask any more questions.
Okay. Thank you, Trudy, very much. We appreciate that's it for today. And thank you, each and everyone who's been here with us. Even those who are watching the recorded version or listening to it, we thank you for being with us. Share it with all your friends. Let's spread love because every heart is a domino and the momentum starts with yours.
That's what we are.
Make it go. Make it go non-stop.
Yeah.
Bye for now. Until next time.
Thanks, Anthony.